From the Wazillo Media Studios in San Diego, g'day, I'm Troy Hazard. We are getting down to the business of franchising with Katrina Mitchell as my guest co-host for the hour. Fantastic conversations, but just not enough time.
Yeah, no, we could do this
over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're going to have to. We're going to have to get, but particularly, Tom, I mean, we only got started on how you buy a business and the 55 steps you're going to take to get there at the end of the day. So we might get him back in the next couple of weeks, I think. Now, you've also got one more mate that you're bringing on board today to have a bit of a chat, Plave from Plave Koch. Now, they're franchise lawyers that specialise in just all the legal documents that surround this. And it's a special game, isn't it?
Oh, very, very different. It was an interesting experience when I went to buy my franchise, Troy. I brought the FDD, the Federal Disclosure Document, to a local attorney who didn't have franchise expertise, which is a big mistake. Because the first thing she saw was ka-ching, ka-ching, billing up hours of pouring through this document. And the reality is, when I got her and I got caught up with her, I said, no, you don't get this. We're not going to be making any changes. This is the document. Yeah. Your job is to let me know what my exposure is. That's all.
So you're educating her on the process.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty dangerous, isn't it? I mean,
exactly.
Over the years, I've worked with a lot of lawyers that think they know franchising but really don't, and have had a very similar experience to that, one of which you will not get with Plave. Lee, thanks for joining us from Washington, mate.
Pleasure to be here.
Mate, tell us a little bit about your history in franchising. Clearly, it was something that you felt, passionate about to want to head down this path, because typically lawyers do all things for all people, but this is something you really specialise in.
For longer than I would care to admit. For 25 years.
Wow.
I came at it coming out of the Federal Trade Commission, so I developed a specialty in some regulatory work. But my regulatory work was funeral practices and used cars. So not quite this.
No. And what was the steer into this? I mean, 25 years ago, it was a fairly emerging category. We saw some of the bigger players that have been around for a long time, but many of the 7,000 brands that now exist as franchisors in the United States didn't exist 25 years back. You must have seen a bit of a trend come along.
I'd like to say that we were prescient in that regard, but the truth of it is, it just sounded like it was interesting, and it's proven to be so throughout these years. That you're working with energetic, engaged people who are passionate about their brands.
Right.
There's an awful lot to like about that sort of a situation.
Yeah. So what am I looking for then as a potential franchisee? I've been given the disclosure document, I've been given the franchise agreement from my potential franchisor. Are there some key red flags I should be looking for, or is it just a matter of going through and having someone like yourself check off the boxes to make sure that it's a fair and reasonable deal?
Well, there are a couple of pieces to the puzzle. One of them is, and I think principally, is to do your homework. You're making a big investment, and you should be very careful to look through all of that information that you've received and to develop some more on your own. So as Katrina suggested, hire a lawyer with experience in the area, and don't trust what the lawyer necessarily tells you, because I don't mean to cast aspersions, but a lot of people will tell you they've got experience in the area. Experience doesn't necessarily mean experience. You really want to find somebody who is recommended by her peers or his peers as knowing what they're talking about in that particular area. Ask other franchisees who they have used, for example. Get yourself an accountant who understands the business that you're getting into, both the franchise part of it, as well as the substantive portion of the business. And last but not least, you've got a lot of homework you can do on your own. For example, your FDD will show you not just the agreement and not just the financial statements of the company, all of which need to be carefully reviewed, but it'll also show you the list of current and former franchisees. If you don't call every one of those people, you're missing an opportunity to learn the truth about what's going on, good, bad, or indifferent, and to really come to a conclusion as to whether that's the right opportunity for you.
And the franchisor has an obligation to allow you to be able to call both existing and past franchisees. Is that right?
Absolutely. And, if you're buying a franchise today, you might see the FDD that's current to your year, but that doesn't mean that you can't get a copy of the FDD from a year or two ago.
Okay, interesting.
Some of the older former franchisees and some of the older incumbent franchisees, and find out what their experience was. You'll also see some more trend lines.
And to get into the process, there's certain milestones that happen over certain timelines, isn't there? Like you've got cooling off periods and the like that mean you can't really get pushed into it in a big hurry. There's a series of steps, is there not, we have to take?
Yeah, and reputable franchisors aren't going to push you into an agreement. They want to make certain it's the proper arrangement on both sides. It's in every respect a commercial marriage. You know, they don't want to get into a relationship with somebody who's not going to work out any more than you want to get into a relationship with somebody who's not going to be right for you over the long haul. If you're talking a 5, 10, maybe 20 or 50-year commitment to be in business together, that's a long time. You got to make sure you get it right.
And look, it is like a marriage too, isn't it? It's you know, you are getting married to that brand, and like everything, divorce is somewhat difficult.
Yeah.
I'm afraid so.
How have you found those difficult times when some people want to get out of the system? They've been in it, and for whatever reason, it could be a family reason, it could be a health issue, it could be something's got in the road of life, and you're trying to find them an exit. How difficult is that?
Well, the answer is like any other good answer. It depends.
Yeah.
If you're in a business that's a very attractive business, and there are a lot of people who would like to get into it, then you as a franchisee have the advantage of potentially finding a buyer for your business. Whether you can recoup your costs, make a profit, or otherwise is somewhat a matter of where the market is at the present time when you're in that situation, and how well the business is operating. A business that's operating optimally, that's generating good cash flow and good profit, is going to be far more marketable than a business that's poorly managed, that's been driven a bit into the ground and needs to be transferred because, let's say, I'm the franchisee, I'm just not that good an operator.
Yeah, sure. And
so it's a function of all of those factors.
Yeah, of course. And look, I think over the years, one of the biggest things I've seen with people that work in your space is there's a little bit of hesitancy from a potential franchisee to call someone like yourself, because I think it's going to cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. And my answer to them was always, for the money you're going to invest in this bit, it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than it is trying to get out of a bad marriage down the track in case something goes wrong or in case the agreement's not quite right. And I'm sure that would be something you would concur on, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cost is less than people would probably assume that it is.
Yeah.
Franchise agreement reviewed.
Yeah.
Even to negotiate the franchise agreement, although that's not easily done. There are some franchisors that might be willing, some franchisors that are not. It depends on the market, depends on the life cycle of the franchise. Is it a brand new franchise? Is it a relatively established one? Obviously, market power is going to be different in each of those circumstances.
Good, mate. Well, look, we'll have you back again. I think this is a big conversation. Thanks, Lee, for dropping in, mate.